Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, a little bit of a rushed video today, not really left myself enough time between now and work, but we're going to be having a quick look at the Paladins again. Obviously, I've done quite a few videos on these guys already, but we have obviously just had the epic doctrines introduced, more specifically the Ironsides, which obviously is a prime candidate for Paladins, so I just kind of wanted to throw that on and just jumped into a couple of games. The game looks a little bit more impressive than it is because there's quite a few peasants in there, but it does kind of show how they fare a little bit against other paladins and things with it on. So is what it does is it gives plus 115 piercing, slashing, and blunt defense for 10 seconds. So it gives them a fairly significant defense buff initially. There are a couple of other doctrines, sword doctrines specifically, I want to get my hands on. And I'm really umming and ahhing about the charge cooldown. So a 20% charge cooldown on what is effectively, I think, a 40-second unit charge is going to be nice. You know, it's going to bring it down into the low 30s. Would be nice for the Paladins. The question is, what do you lose? Obviously, it's also nice because it allows you to stack the Paladin sword doctrine with the piercing damage. It means I'm doing pretty well for the extra damage, and it kind of seems a shame to remove that. Breakthrough doctrine, again, really knocking that damage up. Could take the piercing defense off, particularly now I've got this Ironsides to help their defense and maybe give them the charge cooldown. But then again, how many fights are there when you charge in, win the fight, and then need to charge again within 40 seconds to make it worthwhile to put this on? So, I don't know. I may end up putting this charge doctrine on at some point, but for now, I'm just kind of hanging fire, see if I get any of the other sword doctrines that I kind of want to get on. There's like some damage ones I'd quite like to get my hands on, so kind of have to wait and see what they're like. But that's enough to be said. Let's hop, words, Evo, come on. Let's hop, that's the one. Let's hop straight into battle and kind of see how it was we got on with these guys. So we kick things off on Hidden City. As I say, this clip's a little bit of a strange one. There's an awful lot of peasants, but there's a few little more decent units where we actually get to give these paladins a little bit more of a proper test as well. So initially, just using the Watcher just to rack up a few random kills. Why not? But the siege towers are starting to get closer to the wall. The archer teams are starting to exchange fire, and things are slightly starting to hot up. I've just got my paladins just at the top of the stairs. I'm just kind of waiting for my opportunity. Kick a ladder, do my weekly quest, etc. And you know, this is always one of the problems I say with being a melee class, is that these starts of the games are always a little bit dull because there's never really very much to do. But the tower lands. I didn't know if anything was really going to happen, but they actually decide, these peasants, just to push up with these serfs or the woodcutters or whatever they are. And so I thought, well, we'll go and have a little bit of a look. Looks like the tower has also landed on the other side of the A point, so there could be more stuff coming up there. So that's kind of my thought process. So we just push in. Obviously, get, 2 or 3 kills. Really not a lot. But I was just kind of curious more to see what was going on. But as you can see, it looks like our team has also got stalwarts on the siege tower and has kind of got it blocked into place, so there's really not much we can do. By this point, the guy I was playing with called out that we were being pushed on the stairs. Really kind of unexpected. And we come down to find a full stack of paladins charging up, as well as some enemy pike units. I just go on straight with my glaive buff and charge straight down. I get stuck in, go straight on with my Ironsides and my hill. We still take a chunk of damage, but remember we are fighting another unit of paladins here. Not completely alone, we had some friendly pike militia with us, but we're the ones doing the bulk of the damage. And we do push through that full unit of paladins, so the same unit that we're playing, with no losses. I mean, we also got the charge off, and I'm also there to support with my hero, so, you know, it does distort the balance slightly. But all in all, I felt that the defensive buff certainly wasn't to our detriment. So as we push along, we actually just push into quite a large selection of serfs here, and, you know, of course, the paladins absolutely ripped them to shreds. I mean, there's no better unit for cutting through serfs like this in this sort of situation. I mean, it's just a bit ridiculous. Yeah, we obviously just rack up a ton of kills. But we keep pushing on, and we're trying to get this supply point back. Trying to get these guys pinned down. Annoyingly push up, but then we push into a unit of Conqueror. And this is kind of the downside of the Ironside buff, is the fact that it's got quite a long cooldown. But as we push into the Conqueror, I go on with the buff because, you know, a few of the units are low. We don't want to take any casualties if it can be avoided. And, you know, in that 10 seconds, that's going to take their piercing defense way over 1,000. And that's pretty nice to have. Although maybe it would have been worth sort of holding it back, as we now end up pushing into a unit of Pavis, and you know, obviously we're going to be taking quite a bit of piercing damage as we come up this hill. But we're able to get in, I'm able to sort of draw some of their fire as a hero, and then we're able to push into the unit and completely wipe them out. So we pushed through a unit of Paladins, a unit of Pikes, a unit of Condos, and a unit of Pavis now, and so far we still haven't taken in any casualties. How much of that is down to the Ironsides is probably the tougher question to answer. You know, it certainly doesn't do any harm. So it does make them more tanky. The 60-second cooldown is pretty long, considering it only activates for 10 seconds at a time. You know, it means that for 50 seconds of that ability, it's offline. So I'd kind of question how useful that really is in that capacity. But, you know, when you get stuck into those fights, particularly if you can get isolated fights, then having that damage buff is certainly only going to be helping you. We just pushed back up the top. I wasn't quite sure what was on here. I saw the team was fighting. I didn't know what it was. They obviously managed to kill the enemy hero. There was just a couple of Paladins left for us to nibble through. So we do that, take them out, and then we're pushing back on. So obviously we have since lost the A point, so we're now going to be focusing on that B point. And we're kind of just looking for my next opportunity, really. Kind of wanted to see where the enemies are going to be. I just run it back through our friendly supply, make sure that's still clear. Ideally, this is a really nice supply point to try and keep hold of on this map, because once you do, all your ranged units, all your javelins, all that sort of stuff still has a nice close supply point to be getting ammo from. Once you lose control of it, because inevitably you will lose control on the other side, because that's a much harder supply point to defend, then it does get more difficult, so I like to try and hang on to that one. We see some enemy units going around, kind of flanking what I'm assuming going towards our supply point, so I head back down that way, although we have got quite a few friendly troops here stuck in already. But as we go down, unbelievably another unit of serfs, but also a unit of muskets behind them, and that was kind of the target that I wanted to go for. So I just go down straight on with the charge and get stuck in, basically flatten what's left of that short sword, and get stuck straight into the muskets and cut them to pieces. And I don't go on for my Ironsides, even though, interestingly, you can actually activate the Ironsides on the charge, and it will not alter the charge, unlike using the heal mid-charge. Then we come around the back and there's a unit of stalwarts. It'd be nice if my charge was off cooldown. Maybe that cooldown doctrine would be more useful. And I try and go for the flank. I'd rather those stalwarts had actually stayed in formation, because I actually take quite a lot of damage there. I'm now on with the Ironsides, and initially, for their time it's activated, it worked quite well. Unfortunately, a second unit of stalwart turns up by this point, and because I've lost so many hit points, I'm struggling to really get too stuck in to be able to assist. I then get grabbed and killed, and the unit has to fight frontally, basically 2 full stacks of stalwarts. And even though we do rack up some more kills on them, and actually do a bit of damage to them, with the extra enemy hero support, it is just too much for the Paladins to take, and unfortunately they get themselves killed. So that kind of draws what it's like. You know, 2 stalwarts with no charge off cooldown is just too much for the Paladins to realistically deal with. They're still an effective unit, and they're still one I very much enjoy, and the Ironsides is only making them better. But anyway, that's all I've got time for today. I mean, it really is all I've got time for. Better get out the door. So thank you for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I shall see you all on the next one.